Alexandra McMahon, and this is How We Met, a Queer Love Archive. Well, we made it. I put my little gay podcast into the world. Welcome to How We Met, a Queer Love Archive. My name is Alexandra McMahon. I am a journalist and podcast producer and have, for the last year now, been sitting down with queer couples from all different backgrounds, different generations, different parts of the country, and asking them how they met and asking them to recount their love stories. A little bit like those little scenes from When Harry Met Sally of the old people on the couch. This is just the queer version of that. So if you like that movie and you like those scenes, you're in for a real treat, and I encourage you to stick around. But before we get to the first couple, I did want to say just a few words about the show and the mission behind it. So about a year ago, like I said, I started to sit down with some queer friends and record their love stories, mostly because I was just craving more queer joy in my life, and I felt like the world maybe needed more queer joy right now. You know, I had a friend that used to always say, every moment of queer joy is an act of revolution, and I really believe that. You know, like people always say, when times get dark, it's really important to look for the light. And so I guess this is my way of trying to push more light into the world right now, because I think that these love stories deserve a place in the historical record. I really firmly believe that. Anyways, let's get on with the show.
As a gay man,
I thought we could never be together. I would like to be married.
Hi, I'm Danika, and I'm she, her.
You are?
Yeah, the way I said that was
You're she, her.
Yep, I'm she.
I'm her. No, I'm Alex. I also use she, her pronouns. So we've known each other for what I realize is going to be 12 years this year, which is crazy. We've been hooking up, seeing each other for like 9, dating officially for 8, married for what will be 2 in May. We were doing orientation at college because Danika and I both went to ASU. Go Devs.
Go Devs.
And we were both journalism students, and we were both in the honors college, so we lived on the same floor on the dorms, and we were part of like all the same orientation activities. So we spent a lot of time together in a big group of kids, though.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure the first time I met you, that big week and a half of activities was we all went to Froyo, very 2012.
I remember there being a Froyo moment, but I don't really remember that at all. I think part of the honors college does this camp, and I know that we met at the camp because we have a photo in which we're in it together. But I think that's the first time I remember actually having a conversation with you.
As you can tell, I don't think it wasn't like you stood out to me immediately as the love of my life.
No, there was, oh, look at this shy, kind of nerdy girl.
Oh, damn it. We definitely also settled into different freshman year friend groups, which is such a classic college thing where you kind of pick a group and you try it out, and then as literally time would tell, the next 3 years looked very different for both of us socially, or more so for me. Your group was way more, I think you were part of a cool kids group. You guys drank, you had secret parties in your dorm room because you didn't have a roommate, which was really lucky. But I just heard about it the next day. I did not get invited.
Yeah, okay, in my defense, it's not that I didn't like Alex. It's more so I kind of got the vibe that she would tell on us. And so among the people, you try and keep it within people that you're who's going to be down to drink in the dorms. And I don't think I saw Alex as one of those people.
That's so insulting.
Well, now I know you. I also, though, I do remember it was freshman year. I was in the dorm lounge area, and Alex was going on a date, and she was dressed up, and she was looking really cute, walking. And I remember I was just like awestruck. I was like, holy shit, this girl is so fucking hot. And I was just like watching her go, and I remember thinking to myself, oh my god, I hope I marry someone like that one day. Which is such a lame thing to do. I was like a freshman in college to be like, oh my god, like why are you thinking about marriage? Like calm down.
I remember at the very end of freshman year, I was volunteer working. Like, I think I got paid at the table sometimes at this like independent bookstore. But one time, like you, Alejandra, and like your other girls came by, and like we had like a really fun chat. And I was like, the first time you get like those friend sparks of people. And because I just thought all of you were so cool, and also all of you just like got in bobs. It was really funny. Like you already had a bob. I feel like Alejandra, Carolina, and Alexis had all just gone bobs.
I love this idea of like a group of 4 girlies come in all with bobs.
You did. I was like, oh my god, do I need to get a bob? Because these were like, to me, you guys were the coolest girls.
That's so funny because I actually remember that now, and I remember us walking away and talking about the interaction. And we're all like, she's so cool.
Yeah, so that to me, I feel like was when we kind of first, you were like way more in like my field of vision. And then summer goes by. Come back sophomore year of college, we were in a photojournalism class together, me and then all you and those 3 other girls, and we all became really good friends then. And I think that's when we started to hang out. We would study together, obviously, but like we went to concerts, and we were peer mentors together as well.
There was also, I remember at some point end of sophomore year, I think you had come out as bi. And I think I remember suddenly being like, I need to know everything about this. And so we like went to a concert together. I forgot. I think we just like, it was like a Kanye West concert.
It was Kanye.
And I remember the whole time, I'm just like repeatedly grilling Alex. I'm like, who's your type? Like, what's your kind of type? Like, who have you ever like, have you hooked up with anyone? And poor Alex is just like, can we just like watch this concert?
Kanye's like climbing a mountain on stage. I don't know.
But then, yeah, I think we just naturally kind of became friends. And then we were trying to find people to live with, my friend Alejandra and I. So we were like, well, Alex, do you want to come in? But this is around the time that I was like, oh, Alex is like kind of really cute. She's like kind of really funny. She's like really smart. So I started getting a crush on her. And I remember we were like trying to finalize our housing, and I'm telling Alejandra this. And she was like, you're not allowed to have a crush on someone that we're living with. And I was like, you know what? You're right. That is not allowed. And so then I'm like squashing all those feelings. Be like, you have no crushes. You have no feelings about us.
Yeah. And so meanwhile, I didn't realize that you had a crush on me, at least at this point. So instead it feels like a Cinderella story when like you and Alejandra ask if I want to be your guys' roommate. I'm like, oh my God, it's come so far. And of course I said yes, because I had decided recently that I didn't actually want to live with my boyfriend. I was in a relationship at the time with this guy that I would end up being with for most of college until we broke up at the beginning of my senior year. In junior year, I was like, I think I want to live with friends. So I already was like literally just starting to think about who I could live with when you guys asked me. So it felt very serendipitous for sure. Once we move in, I can tell that you have a crush on me.
So I'm sitting here like, I'm so smooth. I'm really doing a great job. She has no idea. No, it was like the most obvious thing in the whole world. But I will say, okay, I had gotten over her. I was like going on dates. Nothing was panning out. And then you and your boyfriend are broken up for like a weekend, and that was it. But during that weekend, suddenly all these feelings were like came back, and I was like, I can't like squash these down anymore. So then I was like, no, I like definitely like this girl. And I was taking a class at the time that was like Holocaust and film class, and how the kind of scheduling would work is that I would of course never do this ahead of time. So right before it was due, I would like watch the film.
Yeah, I just kept coming back from these waitressing shifts I had, and it would just be Danika alone, the lights mostly off, just gearing up a Holocaust movie, and I would sit down and we would kind of, by the end of it, like start drinking and playing games and inching closer. And I would call it like a plausible deniability kind of cuddling, where it's like we could just be two girls who are really close.
Meanwhile, I just want to add additional context. This whole time, I am telling my sisters and my cousin about this, and I'm giving them updates all the time. And they're always like, Danika, you're crazy. Like, she has this boyfriend. Like, I don't think she's into you. I'm like, you don't understand. We're getting so close to each other on this couch. And they're like, Danika, you're crazy. So I had never had a girlfriend growing up. Like, I came out right before going to college. And there were 3 out lesbians on this like small downtown like campus. And so it wasn't like there was a lot, like there's slim pickings, right? So then I was just like on dating apps trying to find people, and it just kept on being a bust because you're like, you're not even 21 yet. So the dating apps are pretty limited. At the time, like people were on them, but it wasn't great. It just was not hitting. I'm also, I don't know, I'm one of those people, it takes me a while to actually like someone. Like I need to get to know them more. And so it's hard for me going on these dates because I'm like, well, I don't really feel an instant connection, but is it just like gonna take me a while? So that was like a struggle and a half. But honestly, I was so focused on like school and internships, and we were like in a news organization together, so focused on those things. I was dating but not successfully, but it's kind of like I'd rather focus on my career, so it's like whatever.
And not to like put you on the spot, but I do feel like you were in despair about like finding love.
I was like the classic lesbian that was like, oh my God, I haven't found a relationship at this point. I guess I'll never find love. I was still in college. I was at a cabin with my sister, and I was just like, we were out like looking at the stars. And I was like, Erica, like, I'm never going to find love. It's never going to happen for me. And she's like, okay, girl, take a step back. You are 20. I think we got some time in life before we start declaring that like all love is lost. So I'm like, yeah, that's very true. I do think I was like desperate for it, if that makes sense. But I also like was so focused on other things that it wasn't like I was doing a lot to change not having a relationship, if that makes sense.
That's hard. And I think have known I was like queer, not straight for like my whole life, basically. And I had the weird experience of like not really knowing to being like, oh yeah, well, obviously, like I'm also interested in like people of all genders, it seems like. And then high school, didn't know any queer people. So also just kind of like by default went back in because of the lack of like visibility and support. And then finally, yeah, I think sophomore year of college, I started talking about it more. I think because, you know, when you're a like bi or pan person, you're dating, especially like in a heterosexual way, you want to make it known that like that's not all of me, like there's more to me. So I think I started telling friends who I felt comfortable with, and that included you, because you were like one of the few lesbians I knew well. So that's why I started talking to you about it.
And I also think that maybe this is probably why I started to actually have a crush on you, is I think that you really became into your own, and you started really being like authentically yourself. And like because I had viewed you, right, as like this shy, kind of quiet person, and then I got to know you, I'm like, oh, well, that's wrong. And so I think that the more I got to know like the real you, and the more that you became more comfortable like sharing the real you, if that makes sense, I think that's when I really started to crush on you.
I also was starting to have a bit of a crush on her back, at first in the way that when you're younger, you know someone likes you, so you're like, okay, like I'll like you too. Like that was kind of like the initial logic, I think, of the crush. But there was like a genuine connection between us, and Danika has always just been like one of the coolest, funniest people I've known, and just like so welcoming and kind. And those traits stood out then as they stand out now. So I think also like, even though like, if to be completely honest, like the initial like spark for the crush was just kind of like the quid pro quo kind of thing that happens when you're younger. It definitely like was obviously cemented in something realer and like a genuine connection and interest in who you were, and just you were such a good friend to me and to other people. That really always stood out to me as well.
Alex, stop.
What can I say? What can I say? My relationship destructed very badly, and that was kind of at the end of summer, beginning of our senior year of college, and I was single for the first time ever in college for not just a weekend. And I really wanted to have like a really fun, flirty era. Besides Danika, I knew of a couple people who had like seemingly been flirting with me over the years. So I was kind of like, ooh, like once the parties start kicking up, I'm just going to go for it and have a good time. I'm a free bird.
So after junior year, I had moved into my own apartment because I was only going to be there for a semester because I was doing like a second semester in DC. And so to save everyone like a headache, I was like, I'm just going to leave so you can get like a whole roommate for a whole year. So we weren't actually living together. So I had known that she got out of the relationship, so I wanted to give her like some time because I knew that'd kind of be a lot right away, right? I said that, but I feel like in college, you know, like a week and you're like, that's been a good amount of time, right? Like we're set here. So shortly afterward, like school started back up and we had been at a bar with some friends and they had left. And so just the two of us again, right? So I'm like, hey, want to play hot seat? We've never played hot seat before. It's this idea of like, okay, if you're in a room, it's supposed to be a group of people. It's a party game. And you're in a room and like one person's in the hot seat and for like a minute or whatever time frame, anyone in the room can ask them any question they want. And the rule is you have to answer honestly.
You're getting so heated.
Because some of us follow rules.
It's just a way to get people to make out with each other. You know, it's a great college drinking game. It's like truth or dare, but all truth.
Yeah, but also it's like you can't play two-person hot seat. Like that's just like having a deep conversation. Like that's not a thing. So then we're just the two of us, like, want to play like two-person hot seat? She's like, yeah. So I ask her, hey, like who in our friend group have you had a crush on? And she like lists random people, but she didn't say me. And I'm like, well, that's a hit, right? So then my turn comes up and she's like, hey, like who have you had a crush on? So I like say random ass people and I'm like, honestly, like I had a crush on you at one point. And she was like, oh, wait, I had a crush on you. I just left you off my list. I'm sorry, that's not how that game's played. That is not how you're supposed to do this. So she broke the rules, but thankfully I was honest to the game. So then I'm like, oh, well, like if I'm being honest, I still have a crush on you. She's like, oh yeah, me too. So then we kind of like just stare at each other, like smiling like idiots. And then I was like, oh, I should probably do something about this. So I go in to kiss her and then I like spill a beer like all over the place. It's like, oh, oops. I just like picked it back up. It's like, okay, let's get back to what we were gonna be doing.
We made out. It was great. I was so happy. I know I broke the rules of hot seat, but I was just really nervous. And now I get to bring up that you walked me to my car and you tried to make out with me against my car, but I had my backpack on, so it was really uncomfortable.
That's right. And then you're like, okay, like just so you know, going forward, like maybe wait for someone to take off their backpack and put it in the car. So, okay, that's good feedback. I like this. Adding it. Yeah, got it.
We were teaching each other things. Yeah, then we started dating, hooking up. We deliberately wanted it to be casual, but also you, despite, I would say, making the first move and being like the pursuer, also didn't really want it to be serious at all.
Yeah. I think I had never been in a serious relationship before, and I had so many like busts that like the idea of a serious relationship was really overwhelming to me. And I think also I was like self-sabotaging. Like I had liked this girl for so long and she finally liked me back that I don't think I like could process that. And at one point my friend Court, who I had had listened to me for years now, talk about how much I liked Alex. So we finally are like starting to date and I'm in my head and I'm kind of starting to freak out. And Court literally was like, no, I have not listened to you fucking pining over this girl for years for you to suddenly chicken out now. Like I'm not. It's like, I'm going to be at your wedding one day. He's like, no, you're not doing this. She's like, thank God, I needed that.
Yeah, it was hard because I was being very torn in two different directions where it's like I wanted this like hot girl, like fun era, but also I really liked you. And so part of me was kind of like, well, I got it. Like I don't need to actually pursue anyone else. And so even though we ostensibly kept it open, neither of us ever dated anyone else. You know, at this point we shared the same big group of friends. We didn't want anyone to know right away. But that was foiled almost immediately in several different ways. Like one time we had made a plan for a date and then a few days later a friend was like, oh, I'm going to do a bar crawl for my birthday. And both of us were like, oh, we can't make it. And so we're at this, what was at the time a very cool like underground bar in Phoenix. And we're having a great time. We're cozying up next to each other. And all of a sudden, Carolina walks up and like puts their arms around us, and is like, "Hey, everyone just got here, and we all just saw you."
And we're like, "Oh!" And so like, and also mind you, like we had both been like laid my ass excuses to get out of this bar crawl. So we're like, "Hey!" So we like hang out for maybe like 5 minutes, and then we're like, "We're gonna go."
This first semester of senior year, continues like this, where we're just like pretending we don't really like each other that much. We do. We're pretending that no one really knows what's going on. They do. Neither of us is going to make a move to commit more. We do succeed in doing that. And so the time comes, you know, winter break happens, and I know that means that you're going to be moving away to DC for the next 5 months pretty soon. And I think I wanted to keep dating you, obviously, even though I knew it wasn't going to work out. But I think we did have a conversation about it, and you were like, I don't think it's a good idea. And you were right. We break up when we weren't actually dating, but we broke up still. And I was kind of sad and mad, but I was just like already really missing you a lot.
Well, also, not like we broke up well. Like, we were still texting each other. Like, whenever I would come back for whatever reason, we would, like, hook up still. So, like, yeah, we were, like, broken up. But it's not like we were, like, not talking.
Yeah, you called me on Valentine's Day.
So I came back. It's, like, graduation, right? And we had a conversation, like, what are we going to kind of do? And I think we both had this conversation, like, okay, we're both on the same page. And we walk away. Little do we know, wait. Those pages were vastly different.
Yeah, I was going to say, wait. And continuing to this day, we meet up for coffee. We had already hooked up and like made out at this point. But so we meet up for coffee. And I'm like, hey, I know that we're both only going to be in Phoenix for like a couple more weeks. Let's just stay and have fun while we're both here. And we agreed to that.
I know. And I had interpreted that to mean, let's just hook up, but we're not like serious. So we're not going to be like coupley. We're just going to be hooking up is how I had interpreted that. And I maybe went a little too extreme.
Yeah, like when we would go to a party together, of which there are many, and you would leave the room if I walked into the room, I guess less to arouse suspicion amongst everyone.
Yeah, I don't know why in my head I was like, okay, so it's not serious, which means apparently I need to ignore her, which is not accurate, but that's how I was like behaving. So rightfully so, Alex was getting quite pissed at me.
Yeah, and it all kind of comes to the head on literally graduation night. So our ceremonies are during the morning, and we wrap up. Everyone does, like brunch, lunch, early dinner with their parents. And of course, we're all meeting up to go drinking that night and hit the bars. And earlier on in the day, you had texted our group chat, hey, can I sleep on your guys' couch tonight? So I was like, oh, okay. Like, you don't even want to, like, spend time with me anymore.
Okay, in my defense, this is what my thought process was. I was like, obviously, Alex and I are going to hook up. But I was like, is it presumptuous of me at this point to assume that? And I was like, I didn't want her to think that I was presuming that, like, just because we have been hooking up, that, like, she will for sure, like, have to hook up with me. So I was like, I'll just kind of keep it a blanket statement so there feels like there's no pressure, but it fully intending to, like, sleep with Alex, and it did not come across like that.
No, it did not.
So Alex was pissed at me, and we're all like out at a bar, one of these bars, and I could tell she's like obviously really pissed at me. So then I'm pissed at her for being pissed at me because I didn't think I did anything wrong. So then I'm in one section of the bar, and like people would come over and talk to me, and Alex is in another like corner of the bar, which we could see each other, but we're like not. And then people would go over and talk to her, and then like people had to go back and forth and just be like, oh my god, like I really don't care, as we're like clearly like having this like fight. So eventually I just like leave because I'm like, this is not working out. So I go home and I like text her like, hey, can you come over tomorrow just so we can like talk about it? So she comes over and we're like sitting outside, and I'm like, I don't think this is working, like I think we should just like stop. And you're like, hell yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of done at this point. And also I was going through a lot of family drama at this point, like some serious health issues in my family were happening. And going back to this idea of like, where would our careers take us? I was striking the fuck out. I had applied to so many summer internships and so many jobs, and was just, no. So I also like didn't know what I was doing after graduation. And of course, everyone's asking you, all your friends are making announcements. So I was just overwhelmed, and I was done with Danika for the moment. And also, I was about to go to this music festival that weekend. And so I was just really excited to be doing that with some friends. And I was like, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to listen to some music, have a good time, and just like come back a new woman
Yeah. So we end this relationship, right? And so she leaves. 20 minutes later, I'm scrolling on Tumblr and I see this like meme. I think it was like a frog meme. I don't know. It was a dumbass meme. I'm like, oh, I gotta send this to Alex. She would love this. And I'm like, oh, I can't do that anymore. And I think it all hit me at once of like, I've just made the biggest mistake of my life. Like, I think I had been like, oh, I'm so in my head about this relationship that like, I was self-destructing in the relationship, and I just realized what that meant. I lost, and I was like, I've made a big mistake. So I go to my room, and I'm like on bed. The comforter is like fully on top of me. I'm like a spread eagle. I'm like, ugh. My brother comes in at one point to like say something. He's like, what? He's like, didn't you break up with her? I'm like, yes. And he's like, I don't think you're the one that's supposed to be reacting this way. I'm like, it was a mistake. And then like the whole weekend I was moping it, but she's at this music festival, so I couldn't do anything. But then I'm like in the car with my mom at one point, just like, look at the Goodwill, be fun to go with Alex to the Goodwill, but I can't do that. And my mom was like, ride or die. She's like, should we go? Do you want to go? Let's go to her apartment right now. Go knock on the door. Let's go to your apartment right now. But I was like, she's at a music festival. And she was like, oh. So, okay, so finally she, like, comes back, and it was, like, someone's birthday, and so I text her before, like, we were gonna go to this, everyone's gonna be at this birthday party, right? So I'm like, hey, can we, like, go to this place Joe bought beforehand? It was, like, a late-night coffee shop that also, like, sold food and drinks, and so we, like, meet up there, and I'm so nervous. I'm, like, sweating. I'm so nervous, and, like, I'm kind of starting to panic, and so randomly, like, 8 o'clock at night, and I'm like, can I get the breakfast potatoes, please? So then we go, we're, like, sitting outside. The potatoes are just sitting untouched between us. And finally, I'm like, hey, so I think I made a mistake, and I would like to, like, actually pursue this, like, seriously and, like, be in, like, a serious relationship with you. And you were just like, oh, yeah.
That was all I ever wanted, was just for you to want to date me seriously and take me seriously and be with me. So when you just laid your cards out on the table and said all that, it all was forgiven. That's all I ever wanted. And I was so, so happy.
I think I had 2 bites of potatoes. I was like, honestly, I don't think I actually wanted the potatoes. And she just laughed at me. She's like, yep, okay.
Danika had accepted an internship at the Denver Post. So you were only going to be in town for a few more weeks. I was really sad, but we put a plan into place. We were like, okay, we're going to see each other every month. We're going to alternate months. So I go to Denver one month, you come back to Phoenix one month. And we did that for almost a year.
And then I had been still, I think, at my Denver Post internship. And I don't know, I think I was just like sad because like I hadn't seen you and I was all mopey. I wrote you like a letter that I like confessed my like love for her, and I was to like say I love you, and like I've never told you this. I think I knew then. I was like, this is the person I'm gonna marry. This is the person I love. And so I think I was like, how sick would it be if I wrote this letter and then I gave it to her on our wedding day?
Also, Alexandra, I have it still. So if you want, we can send you a photo or have us like read it or read a line from it. It's kind of private, actually. Okay. So we did this one last year, and I was able to get a job in Denver right when my lease was ending in Phoenix, and I moved. We didn't immediately move in with each other, which was a really good call. I think you initiated this decision, but I agreed and like immediately came to appreciate it. So I took out like a little studio apartment for the first 6 months in Denver, and it was really nice because it allowed me to maintain my own identity, have my own space, make friends, or like, even though a lot of these friends are people that Dan could already met and obviously become friends with because you're lovely and so fun. But it helped me keep my own identity and not just arrive like full package, just Danika's partner who now is in her house. And also you were living in a pretty small studio.
Oh,
so
yeah. It was tiny.
It would have been uncomfortable, I think also. In 2019, is when we decided that we wanted to get engaged the next year. So in 2020, which, ugh.
Little did we know.
Little did we know. But no, we were just sitting and talking and realized like, oh yeah, like we want to get married in our late 20s. Like at that point we would have been 25 apiece. And we were like, if we get engaged next year and then like wait a couple of years as we plan the wedding, we'll be 27, and that's late 20s. I don't know. I just, at that point, I was sure I wanted to spend my life with you. And I think that you put it this way. We already knew that we were life partners, that we were in it for life, but we decided that we wanted to get married because we were like, yeah, we're ready for that. We're ready for the legal protection. And also we want to throw the best party we've ever had ever.
And I want a ring. I was like, I want to wear something on my little hand.
It wasn't a moment of realization. It was just like we had become so sure that like it was just like an undeniable step that we wanted to take. And then honestly, I only got more sure after we got engaged, which sounds kind of silly and counterintuitive, but we just got even better at communicating, and in the process of like being engaged and starting to have the big conversations about,
as in we were like, okay, let's go like worst case scenario.
We did.
Worst case scenario,
we walked through every single one.
Yeah, we're like, worst case scenario, we fall out of love. What do you do? Worst case scenario, sex suddenly is really boring. What do you do? Like worst case scenario, someone has a crush on someone. What do you do? And so I think we talked that, and all of the answers were always like us navigating it together. Like it would always clearly be together. But also, I don't know, it's kind of nice to be like, know it. Like, oh, there's like no like truly worst case scenario when it comes to you.
We felt so much more in love after we got engaged. It was crazy. Like we were already so in love, but it just like kept growing. I knew I wanted to propose to Danika because she had been the one to ask me to be in a relationship that like fateful night after so many misfires and miscommunications. I was like, I wanted to return the favor of like, you took our relationship to the next level. I wanted to take ours to the next level. And also this was fun because I feel like people kept thinking that you would be the one to propose because you're more mask. And I kind of had fun also with the idea of subverting that, but that was secondary. I had a couple original plans, but they were scuttled by the pandemic. But the opportunity arose that you wanted to go to your family's cabins in northern Arizona in July 2020. And I was like, oh, that's your favorite place in the world. We'll be isolated. That's perfect. I'll propose there. So for years, we had been working on this scrapbook that had never quite been finished of like all the letters and cards we had sent each other when we were long distance. We had kept all of them, obviously. And so we were like finally putting them all together. And handedly, you know, we knew we were getting engaged. We each went shopping for rings. Like I bought my own ring. Danika bought her own ring. We were like pretty diplomatic about it. So we knew it was coming. And we were stuck at home. So we had the opportunity to finish the scrapbook. And I was like, oh, it'd be really cute to propose by putting like a surprise last page in the scrapbook that will have like the question on it. And then I'll like gummy, do the thing. And we're going to Arizona. And I knew that you knew we were going to get engaged. Everyone knew. We all knew. But I was hoping for like some elements of surprise still. But like you just saw through everything, and that's fine. It's because you know me so well, and also I can't lie.
Also, yeah, I was gonna say, this is how Alex was supposedly trying to be secret about it. We are packing the cooler. She grabbed champagne. I don't know why we had champagne. We randomly had champagne. She's like, what? Should we break the champagne? Is that gonna be crazy? We're like, we can have mimosas. Let's just bring the champagne. And then it was like this scrapbook that there'd be no reason to bring the scrapbook. Let's just bring the scrapbook. Come on. Let's just bring the scrapbook. And then it was like, we're there, and like my favorite place, like at this place, is like on the porch of my parents' cabin. And you were like, you don't think your parents would mind if we went over there and used that porch at some point, would you? Like, it was just so cute, but it was like so obvious.
So we spent a couple days at the cabin. I forget why I had chosen to wait a few days.
Yeah, we're waiting forever.
Oh my God, damn. We hike on up to the place. I brought the scrapbook and also just like a book because I was like, oh, let's go read up at the porch.
I'm over here. I brought like a magazine or something, and I'm like not focusing. I cannot focus at all. It's obviously going to happen. I'm pretending to read nothing, and I keep on making like suggestions, like like a really dramatic, like, oh wow, it's so pretty out. Wow, can't really focus right now. Like nothing. And every time I look over, she's enwrapped in this fucking book. I'm like, can we focus it up? So then at a certain point, I was like, okay, I'm done waiting. So I was like, oh, you brought the scrapbook. Want to look at it?
I was also just nervous, but I was like, he said that, and I was like, okay. I hadn't realized how nervous you were, and I feel bad.
Oh, you don't have to feel bad.
But no, yeah, so we looked through the scrapbook. We get to the last page, and I think I said, are you ready for the next chapter? Question mark or something. And so.
And you put flowers in it.
I picked some wildflowers from around the cabin and put them in.
You got on your little knee.
Got my
little
knee.
Speech.
Yeah, I forget what I said. It was very short. I'm glad you forgot to.
I remember it being really meaningful.
Yeah, I think if I were to guess what I was saying in that moment, because it's completely left my head. I also was like very out of body at the moment. But I was just like, I knew you were the one. I was confident in our love. Like, there's no one else I wanted to spend my life with. And so,
yeah, I think I had said yes like 5 times as you were just trying to get the spiel out. So my bad.
Do you, Danika, take Alex to be your wife, to have him to home, for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and respect, till death do you part?
I do.
And do you, Alex, take Danika to be your wife, to have and to hold, for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to respect, till death do you part?
I do.
Okay, so I had this letter, right? I wrote you like a letter that I like confessed my like love for her, and I was to like say I love you, and like I've never told. We moved, like I've been carrying this letter with me for years at this point, like waiting to give it to Alex for like whatever day we eventually get married, which is also like so gay. Anyways, so then we're going to like the hotel before our wedding, and I was like, we're on the way. I'm like, fuck, I forgot the letter. So I'm like, Alex, we have to go back. So I turn around and we like go back to the house, but then I couldn't find the letter. And I remember vividly in my head being like, here's the letter in your hand. You are moving the letter from this spot to this other spot. Do not forget where you put this letter. And all I can remember was going through that thought process and not where I put the letter. So I'm like ripping apart, because we also had to go, like we had a timeline. And so I'm like ripping apart this room.
Also, while Danika is losing her mind, I don't know about the letter's existence. And I'm just like sitting in our car waiting for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
I'm tearing apart the part, and finally, I don't remember where it was. I had tucked it into a journal. So I finally find this letter, and this room now looks horrendous, right? Like I tore this thing apart. Literally looked like we had been burgled. So I finally go, like I get in the car, and like after the
wedding. You were
wedding,
crying, which I was like, I was really concerned, because I was like, what happened? Like, are you, like, I was worried you had gotten a call or something from your family. And we were both like so high strung, obviously, because we're about to get married. And you're like, it's okay, I'll tell you about it. I was looking for something. You told me in a way that I understood it was going to be okay, and that I'd understand more in a bit.
We now pronounce you Alex and Danika Scoville Worthington. You may kiss your bride.
If all else fails, step 1, be acquaintances. Step 2, become friends. Step 3, live together but platonically. And then step 4, fuck up repeatedly and eventually get together. And that's the recipe.
both of us view love as like an action. Like it's not, to me, like feelings come and go. Like you get anxious, you get happy, like those are come and go type of things. And I feel like love, you can have this affection that comes, but to me, love is an action that you are choosing every day to show up for this person. You're choosing every day to do this. Like you're choosing to make them scrambled eggs with just one piece of toast, even though it feels like one piece is not enough and you should have two pieces. You choose to do these things. And so like, I think that is what's so lovely about Alex. I think that both of us genuinely love each other. And I think that like we both choose constantly to show up for each other in that act of love. With that whole idea about love and actively showing up, I think that Alex is genuinely like one of the, I'm gonna tear up, is one of like the smartest and like funniest and like hottest people I know. And I think that we have such genuine like respect. Like at the end of the day, she is my best friend. And so I think that's why it's so amazing, is that like we just lucked out that like we fall in love with our best friend, right? I don't know if that makes sense.
I'm trying not to cry.
I was gonna cry, now you're crying.
I think I said this in our vows, like that we like exchanged privately as well, but everyone always wants to spend time with Danika. Like Danika is so magnetic and so welcoming and so kind and funny that I selfishly get to spend the most time with her, and that's just the best gift ever. It's like, oh, I just can't, I am so blessed in this life and to have you.
Also, my God, you're really talking me up. Someone's going to meet me and be like, oh.
Can you just call me the hottest person?
That's
you know? That's objectively not true.
I disagree. But.
Thank you so much to Alex and Danika for sharing their love story with this podcast. How We Met, A Queer Love Archive is produced by me, Xander McMahon. Audio recording for this episode was done by Anne-Maria Wad. Artwork is by Emily Giroux. The How We Met theme is composed by Addison Ryder. Other music in this episode is from the Epidemic Sound Library. If you enjoyed what you heard, please subscribe and rate the show on your favorite podcasting app. It really does help others find the show. How We Met will be back in 2 weeks with more queer love. Talk to you then.